may not know that Las Vegas is really a casino town that is owned by essentially 5 companies across an 8-mile area. Caesars Entertainment is one of those 5 companies, and they own properties here in town such as Paris, Caesars, and Harrah's. Jessica is their Sustainability and Diversity Director, and she is going to talk to us today about how Caesars and more broadly Las Vegas approaches sustainability. Thank you. I'll just get going and they will start.
Okay. Thank you, Nicola. Thanks. Hi. All right, I figured ag conferences needed to start off with a little bit of lively entertainment. So I brought a Belvedere bottle with me. How many of you have thought of the entire life cycle of the Belvedere bottle? Oh, we have one. Great. So I'm sure a lot of you have thought about what goes into the Belvedere bottle, how we can make different types of spirits, how we create them, what the agricultural piece looks like it. But one of the things I wanted to highlight to start off on the Las Vegas Strip today is the overall level of recycling. Most of the time when you're walking in a casino on Las Vegas, you might think that everything you're throwing away is going into a big, giant dump. It's not. 24 hours a day, there are people behind the scenes that are sorting through all of the trash. And the recycling rate on the Las Vegas Strip ranges between 30 and 50% for most of the properties. I would love to say it's a Caesars only initiative, but it's not. It's even better to say that most of our competitors on the Strip are all doing this. One of the unique things that's come about is that innovative small businesses have looked at our entire life cycle for products and thought about how we could use our excess waste or excess capacity and create a new business ventures. So I just wanted to start off today with bringing a little bit of excitement to your morning. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the Bloody Marys. I'm sure there's enough tomatoes here. But I did bring the Belvedere vodka bottle. What's exciting about this is about 2 years ago, we had a women-owned business come to us and ask us, what are you doing with all of your glass bottles? To Caesars Entertainment. We have a company based out of San Diego, and we want to take them. We even want to pay you for your trash. Well, if any of you are involved in the waste industry, you know how exciting this is, because glass in general does not have a very high level of valued asset. So when anybody's coming to say, hey, I'm going to take all this extra weight out of your waste stream and I'm going to pay you for it, it's a very exciting opportunity. Well, what they wanted to do was to cut down these bottles, turn them into tumblers so that they could then sell them as beverage tumblers to drink out of, or turn them into jewelry that they could then sell into markets. We saw this as an exciting opportunity, not just for our trash, but potentially for our customer base. Many of you want unique gifts to take home after coming to Vegas, and quite a few people that come to Vegas enjoy drinking and might want to take home something to give to somebody else that's commemorative time about their experience here, especially for those that are looking at the full life cycle value of it. So today we work with the company Blue Marble. They sell in all of our casino operation tumblers and jewelry, and they've taken thousands of bottles outside of our waste stream, upwards of occasionally up to 17,000 bottles a month. So it just gives you one insight into what it's like to be in Vegas in that full life cycle recovery. As I walk to today's presentation, we have a lot of pieces talking about Caesars. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my company and our brands and what we're doing around our code of commitment and sustainability. But I'd like to put that in the larger context of the lens of Las Vegas and what Las Vegas is doing. Many times we get this conception that Las Vegas is not the greenest place to be, but I think myself and my colleagues have done tremendous work in this area, and we're really proud of some of the different pieces we have. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to, at the end of today's talk, that you think of how you could look at our excess capacity or potential needs base within our casino industry, and maybe you can think of different ways that we could be utilize our excess capacity, whether that's kitchens, whether that's ways that we could innovate on our transportation or innovate on our agriculture. We're open to learning, but I'll talk a little bit about what Caesars has done and who we are and how that transcends into the industry. Does that sound okay with everyone? Okay, so let me walk you through the sales pitch and then how we look at green, and we'll continue as we go on through. So, Okay, so Caesars Entertainment. We're the largest, most diversified gaming company in the world. We operate over 37 casinos in Las Vegas, in the United States. Las Vegas being the stronghold. We're about 27% of the Las Vegas Strip casinos, but we also have casinos in Tunica, Mississippi, Ohio. We're opening up casinos in Baltimore. We have casinos in Iowa, a number of different places across the United States. What's also interesting to note is we're also the owner of the World Series of Poker brand, so we also have an online component to our gaming ventures, and that allows us to kind of continue to grow our brand. How we think about talking to the community or about being green is our overarching code of commitment. So when Gary Loveman, our CEO, talks about being green, we talk about it in the context of our overall code of commitment, that we look at our employees, our community, our customers, and the environment, and that we have a commitment to each one of them. So when we look at that code of commitment, it looks into all of our outreach activities into the communities we operate, how we invest, as well as how we invest in our environmental program. So Code Green is our branded environmental program, and because of that, we've had a strong initiative and had a lot of targets within reducing energy, water, and waste. One of the first pieces is to our guest. I think it just wants to see more Belvedere bottles. I'm not sure. Okay, great. We're trying to save energy. So if we can direct your attention here. We're committed to our guests. We are the first to have a responsible gaming program. This means that we allow our guests to opt in to not receiving any notifications around gaming. We also don't cash any checks, unlike a thought process. We won't take checks in our casinos, like paychecks or those type of checks in our casinos. We do like to have gaming as a form of entertainment, and that's what we're committed to. So responsible gaming is just our approach to make sure that we don't have anyone under 21 in our casinos, that we don't market to anyone that's under 21, and that we're committed and responsible in all of our activities with our customers. So our employees in our community. To our community, we have something called the HERO program, which is the Caesars Entertainment employees reaching out. Our employees themselves have done over 130,000 hours. That means that we have a number of different activities. I'm sure many companies have these activities. From last week, a lot of us walked in the AFAN walk to planting trees with the springs in different parts of the Las Vegas Valley, to doing bicycle activities, and a number of different employee outreach activities overall. One of the things that we talked about a little bit before was our commitment to the environment. We go beyond this, and this is just the beginning that we'll talk about, but we've invested over $60 million in over 100 major energy efficiency projects. So some of the ones that we like to highlight are that we actually have a cogen facility at the Rio Hotel and Casino, so we're able to create a lot of our own energy. We've invested in other aspects of green technology that maybe some of you are aware of when we're looking at LEDs. So a lot of the table game lights are MR16s. They're smaller light bulbs that when they're an actual light bulb, they'll use, for example, 40 watts of energy. When we switch them out to LEDs, they'll just use 4 watts of energy. So we look throughout our casino floors and see where can we actually look at energy efficiency technology. Other ideas that we include are we look at variable frequency drives on our pools. We look at a lot of these different aspects that reduce energy. And I'd have to say that our competitors in Las Vegas do as well. When you look across the Las Vegas Strip, we have more lead space per capita than any other city in the entire U.S. And a lot of that is one of our larger competitors that had built the City Center building. There's a continuous growth of the U.S. Green Building Council and building lead buildings here in the Las Vegas Valley, as well as lead existing buildings. And so we continue to use those principles. Additionally, we have, within our recycling programs, I mentioned that we recycle the glass bottles, but how many of you have composting facilities at home or at your workplace? Wow, that's a really big number. Awesome. So would you believe that almost every casino in the Las Vegas Strip also composts? Yeah. We have an A1 Organics is a local composting facility here in Las Vegas. It is hard to do post-consumer composting waste because oftentimes when people are eating at the buffets, they put extra stuff on their plate, and it's harder to separate all of that out. But definitely all the pre-consumer garbage or waste to that extent, or the last pan buffet, or some of that existing waste if you piled your plate with a whole bunch of food, a lot of that is getting composted today at all of our properties. It's probably for an average casino, it can range from 5 to 10% of their overall weight and waste is being composted. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about our Code Green strategy in the sense of overall. I've talked about some of the nuts and bolts of the environmental part of our pillar, but our Code Green strategy is really in 3 basic pillars that we think of. One is our core environmental pillar, so that's energy, water, and waste. The next part of our pillar is our stakeholder alignment. So we meet with our CEO, Gary Levman, about 4 times a year, every quarter. We have a very aligned program. So we have 3 leaders who report up into 3 different senior stakeholders within our program, and that's how we drive the program. It makes a little bit of conflict or a little bit of interest because we're not all aligned under one marching order. We're actually creating a program that's with very different aspects of the program, from operations to energy efficiency within finance to employee engagement and stakeholder engagement within government relations. But this type of overarching program really helps engage employees overall. And when we started Code Green, or the branded program, in 2008, we saw it as a virtuous cycle for engaging our employees. And so our employees have the opportunity to be involved in our environmental program, which makes them excited, which makes them provide better service, which makes our brand stronger, which makes us also have a greater pool, which allows us to talk about our energy efficiency and also allows us to invest more within greener programs. So I wanted to wait a second and say, how do you think our housekeepers are engaged in Code Green today? Okay.
It's the put this card on your bed linen if you don't want to have it changed every day you're here, and also throw your towel on the floor if you want to, and hang them if you can use them next day.
That's a good answer, and that's how our housekeepers first got involved in our Code Green program. Do you think that was exciting for them? Okay, in a sense, it was a little exciting. We've upped the game. So our housekeepers now have the opportunity to save lives every day. Does anyone in the room, any Las Vegans who might know how they save lives? No? Okay, so if you're staying at one of our hotel properties, and there are a few other hotel properties on the Strip that also do this, but any Caesars property around the country, we were the first gaming company to invest in a nonprofit organization called Clean the World. And as I mentioned before, we talked about excess capacity, that we had a women-owned business come to us to talk about what we do with our glass bottles. We had a nonprofit come to us about 4 years ago and ask us what we were doing with all the soap that was left behind in our hotel rooms. We said, we're throwing it away. In some instances, we're taking the full bottles and giving them to the local shelters, but for the most part, we're throwing it away. And they said, we've created this new technology where we take the used soap left behind in the hotel rooms, we clean it off, heat it up, and distill it, and then can give it to children around the world that are dying from upper respiratory disease and diarrheal infection at a rate of 9,000 children per day. Sounds exciting to be a part of that. Did you know that just soap alone without clean water can actually decrease the rate of these types of diseases by about 50%? So we looked at this and said, wow, what if a casino company could be involved in saving children's lives? That's pretty exciting in just our regular day job. And today, we've invested over $500,000 in Clean the World throughout the last 4 years, and we've actually gone on mission trips where our housekeepers today in all of our properties take the used soap after your visit, put it in an ice bucket plastic bin, take it to the dock, and then they come by, and we have a recycling facility here in Las Vegas, one in Orlando, and they're just opening one actually yesterday in the Hong Kong area, to then take all those pieces of soap, recycle them, and deliver them. Through Clean the World, through us, and through a lot of other now hotel companies that have joined on after, they've given over 17 million bars to children around the world. It's pretty incredible. I've had the opportunity to go on 2 mission trips early on when we first started, because it's kind of like an entrepreneurial venture. They had this really great idea. It was excess usage that we weren't doing anything to do with it, and they had a use for it, and it was a great synergy of events. And this last trip, we were able to have 3 of our employees go on a mission trip to the Philippines to give out soap and talk about hand washing and the importance of hand washing. So one of our housekeepers that's been with us for 28 years, that is a supervisor at Bally's for 2 of the floors, one of our slot techs that's out of our Laughlin property, and another of our dealers that's out of the Iowa-based property, and then another housekeeper that used to be part of us for 38 years out of our Tahoe properties. And I went to the Philippines, and we actually delivered the soap to the children with Children's International and got to see the impact of it. So that's one of the ways that we keep our employees engaged. They are all entered into a contest with over 150 other candidates for our top performers. But today, our housekeepers are no longer just changing sheets, which is very important. Here in the Las Vegas Valley, saving water is very, very important. We also have tunnel washer facilities, so we reduce the need for water in half when we do wash all of the sheets and towels after the end of each usage. But we've also brought on an extra level that our employees are engaged. So when I talk about an entire Code Green integrated process, it's really important that this is part of our culture and DNA of our company as we move forward. And Clean the World now has reached out to many of our Las Vegas casinos as well. So I could say that there's a number of volunteer organizations, number of casinos that have actually volunteered to scrub the soap at the recycling center here in Las Vegas. So what does the new Las Vegas style casino look like? Does it look any different to you if it didn't have green boxes on there? Not really. We still look kind of like a casino before. It smells a little cleaner. The carpets have less VOCs in there. We are single stream back of house for you, so you might not see it. We're changing out light bulbs, so there's more LEDs. You might not see it unless you look closely. Our overhead lights have less energy. We're using variable frequency drives across the board. We're having more energy efficient HVAC systems. But to the final end consumer, there's not a lot of change that the consumers are seeing. It's mostly what the casinos are doing behind the house. Because when our customers come to Las Vegas, we want them to experience luxury. What they may be seeing, and what is interesting to this group, is there might be some additional thoughts around how we look at menus and how we look at providing alternatives and how educated our customers get and are asking for different changes within their menu options. But overall, within the casino floor, it doesn't look a whole lot different, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, behind the neon. So this slide is a little busy, but I'll talk to the basic pieces. These are the 6. At Caesars Entertainment, we look at these 6 mega trends that are facing our industry. And when we think about our green initiative, this is what we're thinking about and how we're going to, as we become aligned and we see these mega trends, how they're interrelated and can actually impact our business. So let's just look at a couple of them. Water scarcity. Here in the Las Vegas Valley, what percentage of the water do you think the casinos use out of the entire Vegas Valley? Any idea? It's about 3 to 4%. So the Strip casinos have actually put in a lot of aerators and water efficient appliances. We recycle most of the water even in the fountains. Even in our water system pools, that when the Southern Nevada Water Authority looks at the amount used from the Las Vegas Strip compared to the entire Las Vegas Valley, we're only using about 3 to 4% from all of the casinos on the Strip. The interesting piece is the actual biggest consumers of the water are lawns. So it's private houses that are watering their lawns on a regular basis. One of the questions we're faced with that would be interesting for this group and maybe have some feedback on it is when we look at agriculture, are we importing water through our produce that then carry that water into us? Or are we creating produce here and exporting our water to other places? Or how are we looking at growing gardens and growing water? How are we using water in this area? And so when Las Vegas looks at our usage base on our Las Vegas Strip, we are on the forefront trying to conserve water. Another interesting fact is a lot of our water from the Colorado we share with our neighbors. What percentage of San Diego's water do you think comes from the same water source that we have? Close to it. It's in the high 90s. So if you're sitting on the coast thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe Las Vegas is right next to the desert and they're using so much water, realize that a lot of Los Angeles, a lot of the Imperial Valley, a lot of Colorado, a lot of Arizona, and Southern California is also using the same water source that we are. We're located very close to the Colorado River, and we have the channels that bring the water to Las Vegas are mostly indoor. It's not to say that we don't have really high heat levels and there's a whole bunch of other effects that are going on within living within a desert, but our water usage we're definitely taking a look at. Rise of urbanization. So this is another area where we look at how could we use kind of excess capacity and have innovative thought processes. We're a hotel company, so when we think of hotel companies, we're a casino company, we're a hotel company, we offer a lot of beds. Who do you think offers more beds than us, actually the most beds in the world? Airbnb. So it used to be Couchsurfer. They're competing, so if it's this week, it's Couchsurfer. I apologize. I'm not up to date exactly on the final numbers. The point is that businesses of the future we see are not just looking at what they can build, but what they can utilize. So the most successful businesses aren't actually creating the wheels or creating the beds that they have. If we have to invest and create every bed that we are offering, that costs a lot of capital. So if there's this rise of urbanization where we can actually utilize all of the capacity that's within our city or within our country, or as we continue to utilize more space, this can actually be an advantage to a number of entrepreneurial type companies that can work together, joint venture, or think of how to utilize the capacity that's already there. And so lastly, connectivity and transparency. As we are in a connected world, we're very aware that our customers are not just caring about the other side of green, which is making money, which they do. All of our customers care about winning in the luckiest slots. Our customers are interested in, as they talk about on social media and they talk about in other areas, they're worried and concerned about our sustainability footprint too, our commitment to the community. And so when we look at what we do, we realize that everything we do could have an immediate reaction across the country. And so what we put out there, what we work on internally, we have to think of a little bit more critically than we have in the past. So finally, I leave you with a glimpse of how we measure. This is our internal scorecard. You can see these are the major metrics that we look at, but we also are looking at other metrics that are driven in part based on these metrics. So all of our properties across the country have an internal scorecard where we measure the level of waste generated, the level of gas utilized, the level of kilowatts utilized by square foot year over year, and rank them against each other, as well as their employee rankings, which are based on their employee internal surveys, as well as our customer rankings, which kind of look at how many of our customers gave us an A within that range. So one of the questions might be, are you aware of Code Green? How does it influence your decision? These types of questions overall. Where we're seeing the greatest change in some of those customer discussions have to do with what types of offerings we're giving directly to our customers. And that's where I challenge this group to think about more directly of how we can kind of change that concept as we move forward. some of the stuff that we are working on today, and I'll talk about a little bit more in depth of where we're going, because it's not all, some of it's still a work in process, and we'd love to get your feedback on it, is our supply chain strategy. So this last year, we've looked at our supply chain strategy in a few different areas. We realize we buy a lot of stuff. We buy, on an average property, 100,000 pounds of bacon. We have come in every day from one of our properties, probably about 20 pallets of produce, the majority of it being lettuce. We look at how often they come, and we generally try to have set schedules for what time of day those various companies come to our docks so that we can minimize the amount of loitering by these larger vehicles, and we're not using excess gas or excess fumes on the way into the dock. On our supply chain strategy, we recently joined up with Carbon Disclosure Project internationally and have selected a number of our top suppliers and asked them to then, like we are doing as our company, we've been disclosing to the Carbon Disclosure Project. We've been asking our top suppliers to also then disclose, or a lot of our partner suppliers. We're opening up for more in future years. It's our first year doing it. We're excited about it. We don't really know exactly how it'll impact the change. For those of you who aren't as aware of the Carbon Disclosure Project, it's a nonprofit organization that's based out of the UK, and basically what it does is it allows companies to measure their impact on Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 of their energy usage. So do they create energy, Scope 1? Do they purchase electricity that creates energy that impacts carbon? Or do they have purchase, and then Scope 2 or purchased, or Scope 3 is a number of different inputs, from everything from waste and recycling to purchased goods, to employee travel. And so purchased goods being a large part of that. And that's one of the pieces that we're working on today with the CDP project. We've also looked in deeper depth within some of our commodities of concern. So there's a few different areas that we looked at originally when we were thinking of areas that are close to our business. So one of them was spirits. Bring back my bottle. Another of them was seafood. Another area was paper. We've also looked at furniture and electronics to some extent in deeper dives. There's so much behind each one of these areas that when we begin to learn, there's all of these questions that follow questions upon following questions. So what we look for from suppliers is help to educate us within the business of what it makes sense within being green within that particular business. Because if we're buying from over 30,000 suppliers, it's hard for us to get to know the weeds of each particular area. But if the companies that come to us know their business in comparison to their competitors' business and what the carbon footprint looks like, it helps us as customers, and I'm sure it helps a number of other customers as well, as when we continue to look at how we can look at our greener footprint. So some of the takeaways from it, well, one is now you can buy Belvedere tumblers in any of our retail gift shops and remember your trip to Vegas. Or two, if you drink wine at our Caesar's Palace or a number of other properties, you could possibly ask for kegged wine. Since a lot of our customers never saw the bottle anyway, and the wine was the exact same wine, and in all of the blind taste tests, they actually liked the keg wine, we've offered kegged wine in a number of our different outlets. The reason being, the value of the bottle is no longer there. When you're sitting over at dinner, having a glass of wine, opening up a bottle, there's a lot of value within the bottle itself. The bottle itself has an emotional attachment of opening up a bottle of wine. When you're sitting in a casino or when you're about to go to a concert, the wine itself has the excitement of having wine. And it's not necessarily opening up the bottle of wine that has an attachment. By doing that, we've been able to save up to 23 bottles per keg that are no longer going into the landfill. So I hope today gave you a little bit of a better perspective of what Vegas looks like, what casinos look like, and what Caesars looks like, and that at the end of your day, you'll think of these bottles and feel a little bit better about having fun in Vegas. I wanted to open up for questions if there were any questions or... So we are interested in locally produced produce. It's not one of our major commodities of concern for this year, but my role is kind of a combination of supplier diversity and sustainability. And when Nicola asked me to come today, that was our most exciting piece, is how can we look at, I guess we're open to innovative ideas. So in our role, we intertwine supplier diversity with sustainability, and that doesn't just mean it means smaller business, innovative businesses. So if you have innovative ideas, we try to connect those two because there might be thought processes around different ways of doing business. We're also looking at GAAP and MS. Yeah, we're looking at agriculture as well. We're just beginning to look at these areas. That's why they're not on a slide, but I'm talking to you about them because I'd love to get your ideas and feedback. You can come to any one of our properties this evening, and they will offer you Belvedere, and you can even buy the bottle in the gift shop. So we do use a little bit more energy on the strip. I don't have the updated numbers. I know that it's gone down a little bit. I can tell you our energy, what we've tried to reduce overall. So we've had a carbon reduction goal of 10% from 2008, and we just reached a 12% reduction rate over the last 5 years. So there is there is energy reduction, but I can get back to you on some of the goals. We're still a major user, but we're not the only user. Water is the one that kind of surprised everyone.
You talk about well, first off, I applaud you for your commitment to diversity. That's awesome. You stand in a very unique crowd for that commitment. But I wanted to ask you, is there a profitability trend that you find the more that you diversify your supply base, that profitability increases? Can you talk about that?
Yes, actually there is. Supplier diversity is profitable. When I first came into this role, I've been in sustainability for about 4 years at Caesars, supplier diversity for the last year and a half or 2 years. Unofficially longer than that because you just get excited about different things. I'm sure anybody who's in the sustainability world, you're passionate from the get-go, whether you're at work or out of work. So when we look at supplier diversity, one of the things within our supply chain is that if you just look at your supply chain as a tunnel or as opportunities, and you're always bidding out within the top 3 suppliers, you're not getting the innovation and you're not getting the input from a number of other suppliers. So when we actually forced our supply chain to include diverse suppliers in all bids that were, for the most part, over 100,000, there are exceptions depending on what industry it's in and how large and the scope and everything else. We actually saw a savings just from our diverse suppliers this last year could range, I'll give you a range so that it's not exactly the numbers that we have, but anywhere from $5 to $10 million that where diverse suppliers won the bid, where it historically was a larger corporation that hadn't included a diverse supplier in it. So a good example is oftentimes in the service industry. So oftentimes if you look at like a staffing industry, for example, there might be a larger company that has a lot of overhead, but a very astute staffing company that's a $20 million company or $30 million company might have the same skill sets in today's social world to find on LinkedIn or find astute candidates who can then provide a job skill set and could potentially be doing that at a lower cost. So we found a lot of those types of companies within NMSDC, and for those of you who don't know what that acronym, it's the National Minority Supplier Development Conference, or WBENC, the Women's Business Enterprise National Conference.
Are your chefs able to individually buy a specialty product from a supplier for their particular restaurant, or does it have to be a purchase that goes through the whole stream and they have a supply buffet?
Yes and yes. That's a very complicated question. Those of you who work with supply chains know that it's a very complicated question. So it depends on the lease agreement. It depends on a lot of things. I encourage everyone to go through sourcing. Any other questions? Okay, great. Oh, go ahead.
Well, this question has nothing to do with food supply. Some time ago, I was involved in the recycling technology. We deal with technology transfer between companies. And the recycling is an attractive phrase or word, but currently, pretty much all the PET bottle is not really recycled. It's reformed. You know, recycling, when it comes to recycling, unless it's close to loop recycling, it's not really recycling. You still have to exploit natural resource. And is there any discussion about starting PET to PET recycling?
So we're always looking for newer ideas. As you mentioned, within Las Vegas, it's fairly easy to recycle PET1 and PET2. And when you get through 4 through 7, there's a lot of difficulty, especially like LDPE film and other items like that, I'm sure. Many of you have seen that because the recycling facilities that are needed to recycle them, a lot of it from Las Vegas is aggregated here and then sent to other places to recycle when there's a larger aggregated number. But we're always looking for innovative ideas on how we can make that process more upstream. So if you have ideas, you can always reach out. I'll give you, I'll say my email address now just in case anyone doesn't get to talk to me afterwards. It's JROSMAN@Caesars. You can also reach me at Supplier Diversity at Caesars. That might be easier to remember. But anybody who doesn't, if I don't get to speak to you and you had a question, please feel free to reach out. Sure. So the easiest one is Supplier Diversity at Caesars. So that's very easy to remember even if the notes go away. And then my email address personally, but I check both, is JROSMAN@Caesars.com. There are, and I think it would depend on the level of conversation. There are other items that we find, but it's very challenging for us to kind of have that relationship. So it's good if someone comes to us and says, we recycle this type of items. There are items that I think that impact this market that are sometimes interesting, would be interesting, or buckets, those types of items, because they're likely not used over and over again. But it's always hard for us to find the commodity internally and then manage it across the entire scale. So I would rather people come to us with ideas on how they would find that commodity upstream and help us manage it through the entire stream, because it's a lot of internal work. All types of buckets. So most of the compost in Las Vegas goes to Moapa Valley, which is the area that's zoned for agriculture within this region. There also are pig farms nearby, and a lot of the food goes to the pig farm as well. I was remiss in saying that because most people know about the pig farm. They don't know about composting. But there is a pig farm too. Any other questions? Go ahead. So most of the Las Vegas companies work in a similar structure, and each one of the business structures are going to be a little bit unique. So I just want to talk a little bit more broad based on that, but there are rebates and how that works within the strategy around labor or rebates or percentages depends on each individual property with us and our competitors. But yes, there is value coming back to the properties for cardboard. It might just depend on an individual contract. I don't want to go any specifics with anyone's contract, but in general, yes, there is value for oil, for waste vegetable oil, all the waste vegetable oil. There's value coming back to us now on that, as well as it going to most of the school buses in Las Vegas actually run on B20 if possible, or other types of biodiesel, and there's a local biodiesel facility that's opening back up here, and so our waste vegetable oil actually goes into school buses. We're greener than you thought, huh? We also offer water. So water efficiency, we're talking about water. The Southern Nevada Water District also, when Las Vegas residents sign up, they get a free aerator and shower head that reduces water for every single home in Las Vegas, because we inspire all people, everyone to be greener. And there's also rebates and plans back to take out some lawns in Las Vegas Valley. So there's a lot more going on around Las Vegas. There's a chief sustainability officer that works for the city of Las Vegas. There's a lot going around on the city for what we're doing to become greener. What I've seen is that when there's, it's a new topic in Las Vegas. It's definitely a new topic. I was talking with the city about it yesterday. It's a newer topic here. There's a lot of questions around water because we are zoning issues. Right now, agriculture is zoned for Moapa Valley. So how that changes within the city around agriculture, there's a lot of zoning questions around that type of piece that have to be figured out before the Strip even kind of looks at what they can do on a really localized level. I know that our counterparts are very interested in urban gardens, definitely. I know that our counterparts are very interested into having items to talk about with meetings and convention sales for larger conventions that come to Las Vegas that are very interested in green. So I think as it becomes something that can be utilized or talked to about bigger conventions, it would be attractive. If it's just talked about as another truck, that may not be the greenest item. So it depends on what the future of the discussion looks like. And that I think is for any business, really. So I think Las Vegas is open to being green. Supply chain is a newer area. We've focused on a lot of the other areas first. So, in what part of our supply chain? Food? Well, food we all buy through distributors. So, they're the two largest that are. Well, there's the largest, I guess now, distributor that comes through. There's a major produce supplier that comes to Las Vegas. There's a couple of other local distributors. So we're not directly buying. I would say the majority of our produce comes from California, by a lot. But we do buy specialty items from all over, and they usually don't come directly from anywhere international within food and beverage. I'm assuming you're going to sell me a container load of broccoli from Guanajuato in a minute. I don't know, but So there's very little. We have one agricultural zone in Moapa Valley. No, there's some other items that we can source. We do source some. We do source from some processing, very few processing or distributing facilities. There's like a tortilla manufacturer. There's a couple of other aquatics companies that are nearby that I know a couple of people are beginning to look at. So not a lot from Las Vegas. We do a few bakery items from Las Vegas and things like that. We're open to doing more. I think it would be interesting to do more, and also if there was a sustainability value behind it on how that's going to impact our water supply in the Las Vegas Valley, and whether it makes sense to do more to have the actual agriculture bought in the Las Vegas Valley. And if you are a local business in Las Vegas or anywhere in the surrounding area and you want to sell produce, please email me at Supplier Diversity or Rosman at Caesars. I would love to talk to you. Anything else? Thank you.
So thank you so much, Jessica.